Hello, welcome in or welcome back to my channel. My name is Deb from DG Reads, and it's time to get lost in the library for TBRathon. If you are not familiar, TBRathon is a readathon brought to us by Leandra at Leandra the TBR0. It is an annual readathon in January, but she has a couple of unique twists this year. She is opening up the year to provide weekend, month-long, year-long, different versions of the readathon that you can participate in. And I am going to be participating in the Lost in the Library game for January. Now, this graphic looks a little bit blue compared to the original. That's because I accidentally printed it on blue paper, but we're going to go with it. We're not going to waste the ink. It, just has a unique twist for us personally to be a little on the blue side. That's fine, right? This is a game that basically lets you start in any realm of the board that you want to. And then from there, you roll a dice and you choose what direction you want to go in and find a prompt and read the prompt. Now, we're not going to roll just yet because I do need to read a book for my starting spot on the board. And I'm going to go ahead and pick the adult fiction spot there in the middle. And partly that is because I am also participating in a year-long version of the readathon, and that is the Map of Stories. It has 12 different spots, perfect for a year-long plan, and the first stop, the one that I will be hitting in January, is the Old Growth Forest, which is for historical fiction. And this has not been my top genre of choice in recent years, but I do have a few books on my TBR that I am planning to get to in January to fulfill the various prompts. The first of which is the one I'm going to use for this adult fiction spot, and I have already started, and that is The Stolen Life of Colette Marceau, and this is by Kristen Harmel. This is a special edition version that I have from Once Upon a Book Club box, and if you're not familiar with that, it is a subscription box where you get a book, you get gifts to go with the book, and as you're reading, you will occasionally come across a slip that looks like this. I've already started reading and therefore removed a couple of the slips, but it's a slip that looks like this that tells you it is time to open one of the gifts that came with the book. I always have fun with these, even if I don't love the book. The gifts add a little something to it, but it also is a subscription that exposes me to books I wouldn't have picked up otherwise, like this one that I enjoy, like this one so far. I am currently on chapter 23, and this is following two timelines, 2018 and 1942. And we are following a woman who is a thief, or she has been a thief, maybe she still is, there's some debate there, but she was raised by a mother who was a thief, and she was taught the art of being like Robin Hood, to be in the lineage of Robin Hood, to steal from those who deserve it and give it to those in need. She has, over the years, amassed quite a bit of wealth and has used it to channel money into things like a Holocaust survivors resources and museums and things like that. She, in 1942, is witnessing firsthand in Paris the things that the Germans are doing and the Jewish neighbors who went missing and the things that they left behind being stolen. And part of that involved her mother stealing back some jewels that belonged to a neighbor. In the process of all of this, her younger sister is taken and found dead later on, and she's always wanted to know what happened. And she's never had an opportunity to get those answers until one of the pieces of jewelry that she knows was with her sister when she disappeared turns up in a museum. So we're following in two different timelines. We have the present day her, who is looking into what happened back then, trying to find people still alive in the modern day who can give answers, and the story of her youth, how she came to be a jewel thief and how that impacted her life, her family, etc. It actually is very engaging. I've been listening to the audiobook while I've been crocheting, so that's also helping. I do enjoy kind of taking this in with the audio and getting to open my gifts along the way. I'm not going to spoil what the gifts are in case you do have this box or order this box. A lot of times their boxes are still in stock, and I did forget to mention, have a discount code DGReads10, which will get you $10 off your first order. But I am looking forward to continuing on with this, and probably, maybe, we'll finish it out today. So with that, I am going to go ahead and continue on and check back in with you, because when I check back in with you, we can do our first roll and figure out what our next prompt is going to be. I am back later this evening because I have now finished up The Stolen Life of Colette Marceau. And ultimately, I really did have a fantastic time with this. I think it does a lot for the fact that there's a really interesting play in the title. Yes, Colette Marceau is someone who is a thief throughout her life, and therefore her life is around thievery. But the loss of her sister as a young woman and the way that echoes throughout her life really kind of robs her in some ways of the life she might have had otherwise. There's also a lot of things about what happened with the Germans back in 1942 and the subsequent years shortly thereafter that she loses opportunity and she loses people in her life. And I really like the way the author played with that. There were some twists and turns to the ending that I did not see coming, and I appreciated that as well. I do think things tied up a little, almost too perfectly for my personal taste, but at the same time, it was heartwarming. It was really nice to kind of see answers. There's definitely a lot of difficult material in here, but overall, I think this one was a good one. I am using this for TBRathon for a book with a historical setting. I can also use this one for a cover with one or more people on the cover because the special edition, I just now realized, has 2 figures of people on the cover here. The original cover did not, but this one that I have does. So it actually fulfills 2 of the 3 prompts that I need to fulfill for January to achieve my journey through the map of stories and through historical fiction for the month. So with that done, what that does mean is for the Lost in the Library game, I need to go ahead and roll my dice and see what my first book is. Since I printed my map to be a little bit on the blue side, we are going to go ahead and make use of my nice marbled blue d6 to roll. So let us see what our first roll is. And it is a 2. Okay, I can go 2 spaces in any direction, and I have lots of options there, but I think what I want to do is go up here to the nice TBR spot, because I think that means, I really should double check what some of these spaces mean, but I'm assuming this means a book that's on my physical TBR or on my TBR in general. And that I definitely have a need to get to. Okay, so for a TBR book, I definitely need to be getting to some books that have been on my TBR far too long. And one of the ones that I was planning to read this month, specifically for the Buzzword reading challenge from Kayla at Books and Lala, is The Girl Before by J.P. Delaney. This has been on multiple kind of piles of possibility for vacation TBRs. It's been on my shelf for ages. I don't know a whole lot about it. I haven't heard people talk about this in ages because it's been on my shelf for so long, but it's a thriller. It's one that sounded really intriguing. We are following, I think, 2 different women and they have an opportunity presented to them and things go wrong. That's literally all I can really remember about the premise in this one. So I'll be finding out and letting you know as I go what this one really is, but I'm excited for it. It's not the shortest of thrillers, but I can see that there's some interesting, almost not quite mixed media maybe, but there's some interesting little portions in here. I don't want to look too far ahead, but I guess there is actually some mixed media. It looks like there's like some questions that are being asked potentially, some different formatting. There's a then, there's a now, and 2 different women's names attached to that. So that's what I know about this one. I'm really, really excited for it. And honestly, I could use a good thriller to kind of mix up the other reading I have going on at the moment. That's a little bit more heavy fantasy, and I'm excited for this. Hello again, I'm back. I have made it just past the halfway point in here, The Girl Before, and I'm having some mixed feelings about it. Generally, I'm liking it. It's keeping me interested. We are following 2 different women. In the past timeline, we are following Emma. In the present timeline, we are following Jane. And both, for various reasons, are looking for a fresh start at the beginning of their timeline. Emma was home alone when men broke into her house and violated her house, violated her, and she's really security conscious now and she wants to live someplace safe. And everything that she and her boyfriend have determined they can afford is not going to work for her. In the present day timeline, Jane has been through a devastating loss. She had a stillborn daughter and she's on her own and she's looking for something to wipe the slate clean. Both women are presented with a very strange opportunity for housing. And this is a house designed by a well-known architect. It is absolutely streamlined, clean lines everywhere, modern, smart, all these things. But there's a lot of conditions that come with this house. They have to apply to live there. They need to be willing to agree to a bunch of really strict rules. They're not allowed to bring any of their own furniture in. They're not allowed to leave anything out and about in the house. No books, no bookshelves, nothing on the floor, no changes or modifications to the house. and they have to agree to let strangers into tour it once a month or so, and they have to continuously fill out additional kind of applications or questionnaires and provide answers. This house is monitoring their time in the house, it's monitoring their health, it's monitoring pretty much everything, and they have to agree to that as part of holding a lease. Obviously, the fact that both of these women have been given this housing opportunity, something happened to Emma from the past timeline, or else why isn't she still there in the house? And we start getting answers to that as we get further in. Jane becomes very interested in finding out about the girl before, and the relationship that develops with the architect in both timelines winds up being very interesting. There's a lot of parallels between the two women's stories as you go back and forth. It's also interesting because as you're reading, you're periodically seeing some of the questions that they are, I assume, being asked to answer, and they're kind of moral questions. What would you do if a friend shows you a piece of art they made and you hate it? What would you do if someone is starving and this, and this? There's interesting kind of psychological studies happening here, and we know Emma from the past timeline was in therapy, and that kind of comes into play in here. So I'm really curious where this is going to wind up going. The architect guy, definitely creepy. Don't like him. Don't love the decisions the women are making in regards to him. So I'm not sure. But overall, it is keeping me intrigued. I did read this for a while to get some crochet on my audio. Feels like it's going pretty quickly. I thought this was longer than it was. It's only like 320 pages, which really is a standard kind of length. I think audiobook maybe is slightly on the longer edge, but so that explains why it's moving quicker than I thought it was going to. But in any case, I am looking forward to continuing on with this and then getting to roll and figure out what's next. I've now finished The Girl Before, and overall, this was okay. It had some things I found problematic. There were definitely a lot of discussions on heavier topics like pregnancy loss, stillborn child, things like that. We also have a lot of discussion in here about what if there's something wrong with your unborn child? Would you abort said unborn child? And some of the discussions around that I think were pretty difficult to read, and the opinions of the people in here change over the course of the book, but some of them are expressed very poorly. So if any of that is going to be at all triggering, I would consider not picking this one up. And honestly, I don't think this is one I would highly recommend. It winds up being kind of on the low end of a 3 for me. It had some interesting things. It had some twist to it that if I had been more invested in thinking things through, maybe I would have figured out. But I'm glad to have finally gotten to it so I can get it off my shelf and so forth. It's not one that's going to stick with me, I don't think, really long term. I didn't love the decisions our characters are making in here. They are very self-centered, many of them. They are making poor decisions along the way, and I just couldn't find myself really rooting for anyone in particular. There is one character I like more than the others, and I was pulling for her to the end, but overall I think it was an interesting concept more than it was actually an execution that I loved. So with that, we are ready to move on to another book. Okay, we left off on the TBR spot, so I'm going to put my little die there as my placeholder, and let's go ahead and do a roll. 1. So we can either go backwards and read a banned book, or we can work on a 2026 goal, and I think that seems like a smart thing to do. So let's go to our 2026 goal. Okay, one of my main goals for 2026 is to make sure that I'm getting to BookBox books. So I think I have the perfect book for this. One of the year-long prompts that I need to hit is a historical fiction that has been recommended by a booktuber. And this is a stretch by all means. I don't really think this necessarily at all counts as historical fiction, but it is flagged as historical fiction on Goodreads, and I picked it for this prompt based on that. And it is one that covers with Cassidy enjoyed, and it had it move up my TBR, and that is Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber. This one I have been eager to pick up. I think the historical vibes come in a lot of the imagery, the original cover, and even this one has kind of old-timey Hollywood glitz kind of aesthetics going for it. We've got the Regency Hotel sprayed on the edge there, and there's something about it that does definitely give kind of those old-timey vibes. I think the historical comes in with the fact that this book starts with a class in old movie theater folklore 517, local legends and urban myths taught by a woman called the Professor. Most people believe the Professor's stories are just fiction, but Holland St. James has always been convinced that the magic is real. This is one that I've been really eager to get to, and I was glad to get it onto my TBR for this month for this particular stretch of a prompt, but we're going for it, and I'll check in once I get going with it. I decided to put this vlog a little bit on pause just because I am participating in Winterween this coming week and didn't think I could fit another book in, but I couldn't resist it. I had to start Alchemy of Secrets. This is going really well so far. I'm really having a fun time with it. This is set in a world where there's a lot of lore, and in particular kind of around the LA area. It's an alternate LA, don't get me wrong, but the lore is really interesting. There's been a class taught about the lore, and it's things like how to make a bargain with the devil, how to know your own fate, and things like that. And the other teachers at this school basically laugh it off. It's kind of the joke course that you can take, but also you have to figure out how to get into it. It's not in the course catalog. Yes, you get credit for it, but it's not like really part of the curriculum exactly. It's a really interesting thing. And the students kind of take it in different ways. Some of them make it a joke. You know, buying the devil a drink becomes an excuse to go out and get drinks with people. But our main character in here really does kind of have a inkling that there's more to these myths than just myth. Our main character, Holland, is starting to see signs of things that she thinks relate back to what the professor has taught. And she is someone who has a history that maybe ties into some of this lore. And the professor who teaches this course is her mentor. And this is something that she really has embraced fully. But things start going a little bit weird. Her mentor gets replaced without her warning, and the new one kind of is throwing out Holland's work so far because it's fiction, not fact. And it's just a really interesting world and system of finding out what's the truth behind these different stories. And I'm finding it a really fun read. I don't think it's going to be like a 5-star absolute favorite at the end of the year type of read, but it's definitely one that I'm having so much fun with. So in between my Winterween reading, I definitely want to continue on with this one. Hello, long time no see. I have been busy the last few days. I don't know what exactly I've been up to. Actually, I do a little bit. Last night I went and saw Laura Dave, and that was for her new book, The First Time I Saw Him, which is the sequel to her previous book, The Last Thing He Told Me, which I really enjoyed. So I was excited to go to a book event at a local bookstore for that. And she was appearing with Jennifer Garner, who of course is the star of the TV adaptation of the book, which was just a lot of fun. They are a really fun kind of pair to watch play off each other. They're very chatty, they're very personable. It was a ton of fun. So that was my excuse yesterday for being busy, because I was out all day for work, jammed straight after work to get to the bookstore, and then it was an hour drive home in traffic. So it was a very long day. But in any case, basically what I'm trying to tell you is I have a lot of updates for you because I've done confession time, a little bit of rolling off screen because timing wise it just didn't work out for filming. So first off, I finished up Alchemy of Secrets and I had a lot of fun with this one. It was kind of adventure story, kind of mystery story, quest almost feeling story, and the setting in kind of an alternate Los Angeles was fun because that's certainly a place I spent a lot of time. I liked our main character. I like that the author threw in a lot of questioning because of the way these kind of artifacts are working, the way the magic system is working in general. You don't know who to trust most of the time. Things kind of shift back and forth, and I really like that. Our main character definitely makes some bad decisions, but she can be excused for that because she's new to this world. She doesn't really know what's going on. No one's told her anything. I like the idea that her past winds up tying into things. We get kind of glimpses at her family and different things along the way. And overall, this was a really good time. I'm giving it a solid 4 stars. So from there, I knew I was going to finish that one and I was racing to get out the door, but I did fill my roll. So let's cut over to that. Okay, we've got a few extra things on the board because my board keeps wanting to curl, but we finished off on 2026 goal. So let's see what our next roll is. A 4. Okay, so we can go 1, 2, 3, 4. We can go to another 2026 goal. 1, 2, 3, treat yourself. I just went book shopping this weekend, so I probably shouldn't do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, move back 3, which would be a cozy activity. I've already been doing crochet, so I feel like I'm already accomplishing that. So I think what I'm going to do is go 1, 2, 3, 4 for an AAPI author. So for an AAPI author, the first thing that came to mind was a series that I definitely wanted to finish this year, and that was The Dragon Wakes with Thunder by KX Song. This is the sequel to The Night Ends with Fire, and I just decided not to do a midway check-in on this one because it's a sequel. There's not as much I can really say about this one other than it is a stunning edition. It's fairy loot. The back says the spirits demand blood. In this one, book 1, we are following Maylene, who is a young woman. She is the daughter of a drunk man and a stepmother. She's not treated necessarily the best. They're not in the best situation. When her father is, as I recall, called to become part of the army, she winds up stepping in and taking his place. She poses as a boy for that book and steps in as a young man to be trained as a warrior. She also has run into the prince in that book by saving his life randomly. This is as herself before she gets brought into the army, and that kicks off a relationship. This whole series kind of has a love triangle thing going on in it, which isn't my favorite, and honestly in the second book it wasn't my favorite even more so. The one love interest I didn't feel like could be endgame, and we spent a lot of time with him. I don't really want to say anything more specific than that, but that kind of dragged a little bit for me. It went on a little bit. Our main character has been traumatized, and I think that gets addressed a little bit in here, but maybe it could have used a little more, especially with how the end of the first book went and the recovery from that and so forth. So overall, this one unfortunately didn't come in as a new favorite. I really, really loved the first book. This one a little bit less so, and I'm giving it 3.5. And then I did one more roll without you because apparently that's the thing I'm doing. So let's cut over to that one. All right, we ended last time on the AAPI author, so let's see what is up next. We have six spots. So let's see what that gets us. Young adult fiction, immigrant refugee, new or old, fast or slow. Pretty much I can read whatever I want is the general idea I'm getting here. I'm going to go with new or old because I just got a new release that I want to read. So as I mentioned, I have a brand new book that I am wanting to pick up. It's one that I have gifted from Simon Audio. It's on my Prompt Ball TBR for the month, so this is helping me out in a variety of ways. And the book is This a Cry for Help by Emily Austin. This one's about a librarian, someone who loves books. It's about mental health. It's got a lot of absolute buzzwords going on for me with this, and I am now halfway through it, and I did remember to pause this time so I could do an update. I am really enjoying this one so far. I don't know that it's giving me 5-star feelings yet, but I am really having a great time with it. We are following Darcy. She is married to Joy, and together they both love books. They have 2 cats. They have this idyllic life. But she finds out that her ex-boyfriend, someone she spent 5 years with, has passed away. And this kind of breaks her. She's not sure how to mentally handle this. She's going to therapy. She's dealing with her life as best she can, and Joy is very supportive. But we're kind of figuring out through her therapy sessions that maybe this guy wasn't the best even before they broke up. She hadn't really figured out that she's a lesbian. She's not interested in men in that way. She was in the relationship kind of doing it almost like an obligation. But even with that, and the fact that the breakup was very messy and that he really had trouble letting go, she wound up having to block him, his calls, his social media, everything, because he kept coming after her. She still is hit hard by the knowledge that he has died. Obviously, he was a bit older than her, but certainly not old enough for this to feel like it would have been something natural. And this is all kind of a struggle for her. We know she is just now returning to her library job. She took a break for a mental health break. She got treatment, she got taken care of, but she's trying to now hold her life together. There's also a cat, a stray cat that gets found, that gets brought into the story, and she's, interacting with this cat. And the relationship with her wife is currently traveling to spend time with family, and Darcy is therefore kind of trying to make it through on her own. There's interesting things happening at the library with library policies related to their customers' ability to watch porn, to, handle banned book issues and things like that are going on as well that she's getting pulled into. So there's a lot going on in here. I feel like it kind of needs to become a little more cohesive for my mind, but I did get through the first half really quickly. I I listened to it going to work yesterday and then on the drive to the bookstore. So with that, I think I will be able to finish this one up pretty quickly. I think this is going to be probably my last roll for the vlog because I do have different plans for this coming weekend. That is my current thinking. I probably will pull out the dice later in the month 1 or 2 more times just for the fun of it, but I do want to wrap this vlog up so I can get to work on processing it. So I will go ahead, get ready to go to work and go from there. I have finished up Is This a Cry for Help? And I have thoughts. I generally went into this really expecting to love it, and there was so much that I did love about it. It had so many buzzwords that just worked for me. The bookish main character, the mental health rep, the kind of library setting that we get a lot in here, all of that worked really well for me. My holdup with it a little bit is that it is very message heavy, and it's a message that I agree with. All of the messages is trying to put across are messages I agree with. The need for diversity in our libraries, the support of queer people, the idea that young people have opportunities today to see themselves represented much better in books than was the case in the far past. There is a lot of rhetoric in here coming from upset library patrons about things that are and aren't true in terms of what the library is doing for the community. And it gets a little, I would say, heavy-handed in a way that didn't necessarily feed the fiction narrative. We go to a community hearing where you have a bunch of people getting up to testify about things that are happening, and that goes on for a while. It's very much rhetoric I've seen around the book spaces. I've seen because I follow bookish things. And I think maybe for someone who hasn't thought through all of these things and seen these discussions play out, maybe it would be more useful to that type of reader, possibly. I don't think at the end of the day, this book is going to change minds, and it's not going to convince someone who is in favor of banning books about queer people, about children reading diverse books. I don't think it's going to convince anyone not to have that opinion anymore. For one thing, they're not going to read this book. So it's centering queer people and so forth. So that, I think, took away a little bit from my enjoyment level from it. Again, I agree with everything it was saying. It's just, it didn't 100% fit in the flow. There were just a lot of moving pieces in here. The whole cat storyline didn't really feel necessary to the narrative. I don't know. I think I'm being nitpicky, but maybe it just felt like there was a lot going on in here that was outside of the main plot, being our main character, her relationships, her past relationship with this boyfriend who has died, and her processing all of this. I really, really appreciated the fact that it gave good representation for therapy and for someone working through a process, that somebody had to go away for mental health treatment and was able to return to their life and recover and work towards recovery. All of that, I think, worked really well. So overall, I liked the writing. I liked the characters. I liked what it had to say. It falls short of giving me those 5-star feelings for the reasons I've talked about. So this one was a solid 4-star read, and ending this vlog on a pretty high note. Like I said, I am going to wrap this up here. I think that this board game is so much fun. My neighbors just walked by with a dog, so if you hear Kylie whining, she's fine. She's just making noise about the dog. As I was saying, this is a board game I had so much fun with, and the prompts are great because they give a little guidance, but also leave a lot of freedom. So I definitely see myself returning to this board game in other months of the year. Leandra has set aside a weekend each month to kind of be the TBRathon weekend. So I may do like a weekend vlog at some point for those. So let me know in the comments below, are you participating? What has been your favorite read for TBRathon? If you've already read so far, have you read any of these books? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you've made it this far and you don't have anything to comment, but want to let me know you were here, how about a cat emoji for Is This a Cry for Help? I did like the cat storyline. I just didn't necessarily feel like necessary to the story. But hi! If you could hit that like button below, I would surely appreciate it, and subscribe if you're interested in more of my readathon participation, more of my book reviews, and more of my bookish content in general. But for now, I'll leave you here and see you real soon in a new video.